Out in the real world, people use the terms trading and investing as if they mean the exact same thing. But on Wall Street, they represent entirely different psychological and mathematical survival strategies. If you want to understand the pure trader, look at Paul Tudor Jones. He became a legend by predicting the 1987 crash, making a massive fortune while the rest of global finance was in panic. Then there is the pure investor. Think of Warren Buffett, someone who evaluates an asset, locks it away, and does absolutely nothing for decades. But after 50 years of successfully navigating global economic chaos, Paul Tudor Jones recently made a startling admission. He looks at his own high-stress career, admits he feels like a fool, and openly envies Buffett's passive approach. Why would one of the most successful, high-action operators in financial history wish he had spent his life just sitting still? The daily life of the macro trader is effectively an exhausting, brutal boxing match against the market itself. You are constantly probing for weaknesses, searching the globe for short-term capital imbalances and moments of human panic. To understand the stakes of this fight, look at Nelson Bunker Hunt in the late 1970s. His story exposes the single greatest vulnerability any trader faces: running out of liquidity. Hunt attempted to corner the entire global silver market. He hoarded hundreds of millions of ounces, physically pulling supply off the market and driving prices to extreme highs. But then regulators stepped in and changed the rules. They ordered the exchange to accept liquidation-only orders. With no new buyers allowed, the price of silver plummeted, instantly turning Hunt from a multi-billionaire into a bankrupt man. Watching that collapse cemented a foundational rule for anyone operating in the pits. A trader must practice absolute risk management, operating every single day under the assumption that the market has the power to completely wipe them out by tomorrow morning. Success in this profession requires surviving the daily extremes of human fear and greed without getting knocked out of the ring. The investor plays a completely different game. Instead of fighting a daily war of tactical defense, they evaluate a company, write a check, and lock the doors for decades. This requires its own extreme discipline. When the market crashes and portfolio values get cut in half, the investor sits on their hands, refusing to panic and refusing to sell. To execute that kind of strategy, you need an unshakable, almost blind faith. You have to believe that the long-term trajectory of American innovation and the broader economy will always trend upward over time. While the trader relies on hyperactive risk management to stay alive, the investor survives entirely on deep psychological fortitude and passive patience. Despite operating with opposing philosophies, both the trader and the investor eventually have to navigate the exact same catastrophic financial events: market bubbles. This animated chart plots two different eras in market history. Paul Tudor Jones famously used a correlation exactly like this to predict the 1987 crash, mathematically mapping the stock market of the 1980s directly against the trajectory of the 1920s. He noticed that both historical cycles shared the same mechanical flaw right before the drop: the introduction of excessive leverage into the financial system. Jones uses that same framework to evaluate today's environment, pointing to a massive sovereign debt bubble and an incredibly high concentration of individual exposure to equities as major systemic risks. When faced with these flashing warning signs, the two mindsets diverge entirely. The trader aggressively shorts the bubble to exploit the downward momentum, while the investor simply holds their ground, riding out the destruction until the dust settles. There is a specific mathematical reason why a seasoned operator like Jones looks back and reveres the investor mindset. It comes down to the power of compound interest. Jones describes the structural exhaustion of trading. You effectively wake up every morning starting at zero. Compounding, however, builds exponentially on the foundations of whatever was laid down the day before. Warren Buffett grasped this math when he was 9 years old. He later partnered with Charlie Munger to spend a lifetime doing almost nothing but endlessly compounding the value of growing companies. Jones realized that while he spent his professional career fiercely trading capital in the short term, he actually applied the investor logic of building on past foundations to his personal life. This logic started at an outdoor vegetable market in 1957. A 3-year-old Jones became separated from his mother and was absolutely terrified until an elderly stranger stepped in, calmed him down, and helped him find her. They never learned the man's name, but that night his mother added the stranger to his nightly prayer list. For the next 12 years, Jones repeated that prayer, accumulating over 4,000 reps of gratitude that built on themselves every single night. Decades later, that practice of repeated gratitude resonated when Jones saw businessman Eugene Lang promise to pay the college tuition for an entire class of kids in Harlem. Jones saw a similar path to building something permanent and launched the Robin Hood Foundation. That commitment evolved into specialized after-school programs and a charter school in Bed-Stuy that eventually reached the top of New York City's elementary school rankings. Jones spends his days as a trader, fighting in the trenches to survive the market's daily volatility. But by applying the investor's logic of consistent reps to his personal life, he built a legacy that doesn't reset to zero when the closing bell rings.